So recently there was a post on the Blizzard forums that kind of made its way around to the top of the Blizzard forums and then made its way onto Reddit, which is where I found it. And it basically talked about why water levels were not in Overwatch. You know, games like Black Ops 3 really did well with the water levels, and they had parts where you can just swim and it was literally seamless. And someone was asking why there were no water levels in Overwatch, why there wasn't any water to swim in Overwatch. And when you think about it, there really isn't any, there is no water you can swim in, obviously, but there's just not a lot of water in general, and it's hard to think of maps that have more water than, you know, a fountain kind of thing. So I was really interested in this forum post, and I read into it, and he outlines basically 3 reasons why there are no water levels in Overwatch. The first thing Jeff talks about is that it actually undermines the animation process. Now, in most games, you have what's called motion capture. You know, Mass Effect, Call of Duty, Destiny, all these games, they have motion capture where people get on a weird suit and they walk in front of the camera doing all these motions and everything for their animations. Overwatch doesn't do that. Overwatch has so many different body types and character types. They actually have to do everything by hand. And Jeff actually says that he likes it this way because it gives the characters more personality. So when you have to make a new swimming animation for every single hero, it's kind of a daunting task, and one that's going to take a very long time. And because of this, it kind of leads into the second point, that it actually creates less time for new content and heroes. Now, new heroes will take longer because all the animations are done by hand, whether that's just a simple crawl stroke or whatever, however you want to swim. Even if your swimming animation was only a few frames or a few seconds long on repeat, that's still a lot of frames, especially if you have a big hero like Roadhog, or, you know, Sombra is really hard to animate because she's just so kind of, not necessarily bony, but like really skinny, and she has a lot of corners and everything on her suit. They're very hard to animate, some of these characters, and to make a new swimming animation for every single one of these characters is kind of a big task. And when you do that, there's less time for other content and new heroes. So there's less time for maps, there's less time for new heroes, there's less time for new emotes, skins, all this kind of stuff, because you have 21 times what you need to do, or how many heroes are there in Overwatch now? 23, 24. That many times more things to do in the same amount of time. It makes things a lot harder, and what you're gonna get is, if this were to happen and they just made new swimming emotes, you know, next month, they're like, swimming emotes are coming out next month, there's no water, but we're gonna have swimming emotes. You're gonna end up with really bad emotes, basically, because you don't have a whole lot of time to do that. That's basically what he's getting at here, and I kind of went more in depth on it because there's just some characters that don't swim very well or are very hard to animate in that kind of way, far as another one. But the idea here is really just to get the point across that some of these characters are really hard to animate for in this kind of way, when they're horizontal to the ground, and they're going to be really hard to animate, and if they ever do come out with these swimming emotes, it's going to take a long time to get all the swimming emotes correctly done. The other thing Jeff talked about basically boils down to the fact that it's not technically stable enough. And he talks about a little bit about immersion and just what the trade-off is there between immersion and good gameplay. And he talks about underwater gameplay being basically more immersive, but also kind of gimmicky. And he basically says that he doesn't want Overwatch to be gimmicky at all. You know, there's a fine line between having fun and being gimmicky, and he doesn't really want to cross that line. And I understand that. You know, Blizzard as a whole, they don't create new games, they make the best ones out of their genre. They don't create brand new world-breaking IPs or whatever. They perfect a genre, and that's exactly what they did with World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, StarCraft to an extent. Maybe they're having a little bit of a hard time with Heroes of the Storm, but they definitely did it with Overwatch, if the sales numbers are anything to go by. So when he says it's not technically stable enough, he's basically saying that it's not up to Blizzard's standards, and they want to have a game mode or a part of a game that is not half-baked. You know what I'm saying? They don't want a half-baked game mode. They don't want it to be gimmicky. They don't want it to be halfway done, because in 3 years from now, it could be a lot better. You know, water physics and everything can get a lot better in 3 years from now, and it'll be a lot easier to do, because technology is always just improving like that. So right now, it's not technically stable enough, and that's what he kind of says towards the end of this post, is that he says sometime in the future, there could be something like that. So we know why there's no water maps, but what could be some water maps in the future? Well, QBJRR says it really well in the same forum post, talking about a flooded region or city, a future Venice, or like a coastal city on Japan. Would be really They would be really, really cool to see. And I think especially the future Venice would be awesome. Venice is a really cool place even today, and I think future Venice would be really cool with like maybe some Omnics and everything. I think it would be really cool to see maybe just like a snapshot. Like, it doesn't have to be anything, just I want some concept art of future Venice now that he's talking about it here on like the Overwatch Twitter, because I think it'd be really cool. But a future Venice where you have to like jump from boat to boat to get across the river kind of thing, or maybe you have to escort a boat through the river. And you have to fight on the sides. That'd be really cool. Maybe you don't even have to get in the water. That'd be really awesome. But I think that if you guys can get the water thing down, characters will be able to swim or whatever on the water, however they get through the water, and then come out with like a future Venice map. I would be super psyched. With that, my name is Ben. So if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, dislike, dislike this second, go in comments down below and tell me why you rate it like did. And I'll see you guys in the next video.